What's the biggest reason OKC won this title?
Well, it's because of that brother right there, who, by the way, I want to applaud for reminding America and the world what you play for. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is something spectacular.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is doing something that none of us were prepared for. He's not just having an MVP season. He's not just leading the best team in basketball. He is truly, legitimately becoming an all-time great. He's averaging 32.5 points per game. And in the process, he just joined a list that hasn't existed in nearly 40 years. SGA just became the second player in the last 50 seasons to record 16 games of 30-plus points through the first 19 games of a season. The only other player to do that? Michael Jordan, in 1987. Since then, 37 on the Suns, 38 on the Warriors, 35 on the road in Minnesota. Oklahoma City is off to a historical start this season, and SGA is the reason why. We all know OKC is an elite defensive team, but offensively, this entire system only works because of him. Without Shai, the Thunder are bottom 5 in the NBA for offense. With him on the floor, they turn into one of the very best. What SGA has been able to do so far this season is something we've never seen before. He was never scouted as an MVP-level prospect. An all-time great outcome wasn't even on the table coming into the NBA. And yet, here we are. Because if Oklahoma City pushes for 70 wins, and if Shai keeps this up, he's going to force his way much higher on the all-time rankings than people are ready to admit. Before we get into how Shai's been scoring at this level, we first need to understand the foundation that's allowed this historic outburst to even be possible. SGA now owns the second longest streak in NBA history, 4 consecutive games with at least 20 points, trailing only Wilt Chamberlain. He reached 100 straight games with 20 or more in a win over the Grizzlies. And the consistency required to pull that off, especially from a guard, is pretty much unheard of. Streaks like these are reserved for big men, guys who live around the rim, who don't have to rely on an outside jumper. Smaller guys don't usually get that luxury. They see more defensive attention. They take tougher shots. It's inevitable that you're going to have an off-shooting night. And yet, Shai has been able to score efficiently from the floor over such a long period of time, longer than any other guard in the history of the sport. For context, here are the longest 20-plus point streaks among active players. Giannis once reached a 28-game streak back in 2018. Luka reached 36 straight games in 2022. LeBron had a 49-game streak back in 2008. James Harden pushed it to 57 straight in 2019. Kevin Durant had a 72-game streak in 2016. And even that is still 28 games short of what SGA is currently doing. That isn't just elite scoring. That's one of the most consistent scoring stretches we've literally ever seen. The reason Shai's been able to maintain this level of consistency really comes down to how he manipulates the defense. He has access to an unusually wide variety of shots, and he's able to get to whatever he wants. The mid-range has always been his sweet spot. This season, 74% of his shots come from two-point range, an extremely high number for a guard. Of those attempts, 54% are in the mid-range area. That's where his entire model of consistency is being built. Night in, night out. From every section of the mid-range, Shai shoots over 50%, 53.5% on short mid-range jumpers, 57% from 10 to 16 feet, and 50% on 16 to 24 footers. It simply doesn't matter where you force him to take a shot. Clip, Shai shakes Rozier, fakes Westbrook out of his shoes, calmly knocks down the open jumper. Even when you feel like you've played Shai well, it just doesn't matter. Another clip, contested long mid-range, swish. What's made Shai even more difficult to deal with this season, though, is the three-point shooting. That's been one area of his game that lagged behind in seasons past. Last year, he shot a solid 37% from deep, but that clearly wasn't good enough for him. He spent a large portion of the offseason getting better as a deep shooter, and now he's up to a staggering 43%, a change that has completely altered the way defenses have to cover him. In seasons past, teams would go under ball screens, clog the paint, and essentially dare him to shoot from three, just to take away the mid-range and the rim. Even then, Shai found ways to punish those coverages. But now, with him confidently stepping up and knocking down those deep shots, Defenses no longer have that option. They're being forced to guard him higher up the floor, which then opens everything up. And that's why he's having a career year from mid-range, shooting over 50% from every spot. With this one change, it feels like Shai has become completely unstoppable. It's the biggest reason he's second in the league in scoring, while ranking just 41st in minutes played. Luka Doncic currently leads the NBA in scoring, but he also plays the 6th most minutes in the league. So when we ask, who's the best scorer in the league right now, there's really only one answer, and it's SGA. Ultimately, the way Shai props up an offense that simply isn't good without him is something that doesn't get talked about nearly enough. Yes, OKC would obviously still be a great defensive team without Shai. They'd probably stay competitive just because of that alone, but their ability to consistently put the ball in the basket, that would completely evaporate. And too often, that reality just gets brushed aside. Where Shai becomes truly dangerous, though, is in the moments where he has to completely take games over. We saw a great example of that recently, closing the first half against the Clippers. The Clips were content holding a 6-point lead after the first quarter, but that quickly changed. Quick cut montage, Shai uses strength to free himself from Collins, hits a tough one-footed jumper, splits 2 defenders out of a high screen, finishes with an up and under, uses a go screen from Chet, freezes Dunn, gets to the cup. Then comes the defense, erases a mistake with a chase down block on Zubac. Moments later, meets him at the summit for another ridiculous block. I mean, that is a ridiculous defensive play for a point guard. And that's exactly why we talk about SGA's defense, because there aren't many guys at his position making plays like that. Finally, coming back down the floor, SGA knocks down an off-balance floater. And just like that, Oklahoma City leads by 9 at the half. A 15-point swing powered by SGA dominating both sides of the floor. This is why he's so dangerous. And yet, even with all of that, this still isn't his most dangerous asset. It's something we don't get to see very often because of how good the team is. And that's, of course, what he's able to do in the clutch. This is where he becomes truly unguardable. And ironically, we've barely seen it this season. SGA has already sat out 15 fourth quarters, simply because OKC's leads have been so large he hasn't even needed to play. That's how historically dominant the Thunder have been. And yet, despite missing all that late game time, Shai somehow still leads the NBA in clutch points at 100, 9 more than second place Cade Cunningham. SGA is knocking down 54% of his shots in the clutch, which is totally absurd given the level of defensive attention he generates every possession. For me, one of his best closeout performances this season came in Golden State. The Warriors had miraculously fought back to take the lead, but SGA instantly snatched it back. First, gets to the elbow, calmly knocks down the mid-range. After getting burned, Buddy Hield drops back, so Shai eats up that space and hits a sidestep 3. Next possession, Hield comes up to meet him, so Shai methodically gets back to the same spot and beats him again. Just like that, Oklahoma City walks out with a win. SGA took complete control. It's really just that simple for him. Pick him up too high, he'll beat you inside. Give him a cushion, he's pulling up from 3. That's the difference this season, and because of that, there really isn't a coverage that works without sending lots of help. As a team, OKC now has the 3rd best clutch record in the NBA at 9-3, and the 2nd best clutch offense at 131 points per 100 clutch plays. And I'm telling you right now, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is absolutely the reason why. Historically, clutch performances like these translate directly into the playoffs, because the intensity and execution of clutch regular season minutes mirror what we see over a full 48-minute postseason game. And because of that, all of this bodes extremely well for Oklahoma City. Having the best individual scorer in the NBA is a super weapon. And when you really step back and think about this, the fact that Shai sat out 15 fourth quarters, plays on a team that could win 70 games, and still leads the league in clutch points, that's completely unheard of. He's almost certainly on track for Clutch Player of the Year, and to do that on the number 1 seed is pretty ridiculous. If the Thunder push for 70 and SGA continues this dominance, he would probably win MVP again. And with that logic, If SGA wins back-to-back MVPs and leads his team deep into the playoffs, where they're the clear favorite to win it all right now, I'm telling you, the legacy conversations we're going to have about SGA are going to get serious really quick. Back-to-back MVPs and back-to-back titles is something a lot of NBA legends never got to do. And given the way he fundamentally changes the offense when he steps on the floor, while holding his own on defense, I'm telling you right now, it's Jordan-esque. If the Thunder stay on this trajectory, I think he could very well be in the top 25 all-time by the end of the season. By the time this video comes out, Oklahoma City will have already played their 2 games against San Antonio. I'm recording this before both games to get this video out. But after that, we're going to have a much clearer idea of whether the Spurs are actually a legitimate threat to the Thunder. Because what we saw in the NBA Cup final was pretty intimidating. What we already know at this point is San Antonio is way ahead of schedule, and they're going to have to be dealt with in the playoffs. And if you want to see exactly how the Spurs shifted from a fun young team into a legitimate Western Conference threat in less than a third of a season, you can go check out that full breakdown video right now.